Hi and welcome back to the studio, and today I want to talk about the song Collateral Damage from my album 9 Lives. And this song is really a follow-on from the previous song 7,000 Miles, which, as I explained in the other video, is about drone warfare. But whereas 7,000 Miles is about drone warfare from the perspective of the pilot, this is about the drone warfare from the perspective of the target, either intended or unintended. But either way, it's told from the perspective of somebody who isn't killed by a missile, but it's a near miss and they are buried under the rubble of what used to be their own home. So I wanted to start this off with what is effectively the sound of ringing in the ears, the type of thing you might experience after you've been close to a very big explosion. So that's a synth sound here. Now there are two things going on musically here. First off, there is Boran, which it's several Borans being played at the same time, including some tapping on the rim. So all of those Boran parts are added together and fed through this plugin, which is called Snare Buzz. And what that does is it adds a kind of rattle to the sound that you would get if there was a snare drum in the room with the drum that I was playing. And it's useful on drum machines for giving more realism to the sound. And we can change things like the distance between the drum and the microphone and the tightness of the snare, and also how much of the sound gets through. So underneath all of that, we get the bass line. Now, at the time I recorded this, I'd been listening to a lot of Peter Gabriel with Tony Levin's fantastic bass playing on it. And I'd also been watching Guy Pratt's Lockdown Licks on YouTube. Now, if you don't know who Guy Pratt is, he is the bass player that replaced Roger Waters in Pink Floyd. And he does a whole series of videos on YouTube talking about tracks he's played on and written bass parts for, and how he's recorded them as well. And he's also very, very funny. He's a very entertaining guy, worth looking out for. I'll put a link to him down in the description. So if I just call up the bass line on its own for now, there's just a bit of EQ and compression just to make it sit within the track, and it sounds like this. Tony Levin and Guy Pratt both often use a thing called an Octave Pedal, which I'm using a plug-in within Cubase just because it makes life much simpler. And it will add an octave or 2 octaves below the original sound. So if I turn that on, you'll hear what that does to it. Here it goes. Just gives it that growl underneath. So we hear the whole thing there now. Okay, two things happen there. One is the piano, which I'll talk about in a second, and the other one is there's a little Morse code message. That's played on a synth, which goes through a sort of ring modulator effect that Cubase has built in, and it just gives it that sort of radio being tuned in kind of sound. And if you're interested, the Morse code message actually spells out drone strike. There are websites which let you type text in and it sends it back to you as a MIDI file, as Morse code. The other thing that happened there was the piano. And I'll talk a little bit about my piano plugin, which is this one. It's called Piano Tech. And Piano Tech has a variety of pianos available, and you can buy extra pianos to put in it. And they are absolutely superb sounding pianos. But unlike a lot of other plugins which use samples, this doesn't use samples. This uses digital modeling of real instruments. And they use this in museums where they have pianos that you can't possibly touch, like the ones that belong to Beethoven and people like that. And they've actually got models of these pianos in the software. And they have a keyboard which people can play and hear the sound of the instrument while looking at the real instrument but not actually touching it. So we've got the vocal tracks here, and there are really two vocal tracks, and the main one is this new vocal close, and there is another vocal which I did with a slightly more distant mic just for the occasions really when I got a bit loud and I didn't want to distort on the mic. And the reason is that first vocal that I'm doing is very intimate and very close to the mic. I open my eyes. I'm almost whispering when I'm doing that. But there were occasions when, by getting louder, I caused distortion in the mic. So I had a second mic further away. And there's just a couple of occasions when I switched from one mic to the other. But there's nothing really different about the sound. They're both the same vocal part. Moving further on. My head is screaming. Somebody set me free. I must be dreaming. Is this reality? I'm actually screaming, and there is a screamed set of vocals there.
Somebody set me free.
And I wanted that sound because the guy's trapped. The guy's trapped under rubble and can't get out, and you'd scream. So I wanted to do that. I also didn't want to scare my neighbours because they might hear me doing this. So I actually took this little sound recorder off to a remote location in the car, and I sat in the car and I screamed the lyrics at the top of my voice and screamed, and yeah, that was fun. So finally, to give the whole track a sort of nice prog rock feel, I've got a sort of duet solo going on, a battle between electric guitar and a sort of analog synth. Again, it's the Retrolog plugin I've used for that, but it all sounds like this. And the observant amongst you will have noticed some of these controls, the pitch bend wheel and things moving while that was playing, because I was, again, as I've described in another video, I was using an actual synthesizer as a controller for the software synth. So that's Collateral Damage, and I hope you found that interesting, and I'll see you again in the next video. Take care, see you next time. Bye for now.